All right, so this is the modeling tutorial, the long-awaited one. I haven't done this in what, 2 years? So to start it off, first thing you need, basic understanding of Blender controls. So, obviously how to move around and whatnot, how to go into different modes. Now, what you usually want to start with is grab a reference image from Google or make your own. Here, I'm going to do a Torvo. I don't remember where I grabbed this. It was just in my file explorer and I found it. I did search for it though, probably on Google. You could probably find it somewhere. But this is what I'm going to be using, and it's absolutely perfect. This is as perfect of a reference as you could possibly get, in my opinion. And then I'd go into a wireframe, and then I'd make the image semi-transparent so that it's kind of like an optional choice. You can do this if you want, you don't have to. I don't really know why I do it. I think I just prefer it, being able to see through the image. And I'd align the bottom of the foot along the y-axis. And then, of course, just scale it to scale it to however you want. Next, what I do, what I do is pretty similar to my older tutorials. So first step when getting to the actual model, select the cube, go into edit mode, and then cut off, well, hold on, let me redo this. Put a loop cut through the middle, then select that side, delete that side, and then apply the mirror modifier. And then enable clipping, because with clipping, these will stay in the center, and with it off, they will move as they please, which can be helpful in some cases, but most of the time you're going to have it on. And here is where the part deviates from my previous tutorials, because instead of keeping this entire cube, I actually just delete everything and leave a single vertice. Now, also, of course, I don't know if I should clarify, but to model properly, you should be going into like a side view. So like simply clicking this X will make you go like this, or using your numpad, pressing 3 on your numpad will like make you go like that. Pressing 7 will make you look up. Oh yeah, and speaking of which, because this has a top view, I'm going to duplicate the image. Then I'm going to find which axis to rotate it on. So it's the X. Then I'm going to call this 180. So when you move stuff, obviously it's going to go free, but when you press X, it's going to move along the X, Y along the Y, Z along the Z. I always use it. It's obviously very helpful. So I'd move it along the X, align it as perfect as I can with the black line here, and then I'll move it down. And now to actually start modeling, so you click your vertice, go into edit mode. Oh, and to access this menu here, you press N, go into edit mode, then I'll drag this vertice to the mouth or the base of the nose. I don't know if that's what I'd call that. I'm not entirely sure. And then I press E to extrude, where it would drag out a vertice, and then click to confirm the vertice placement. And then I just keep going along the mouth. And then usually, because when I try to, actually shape the vertices, I might find this face or this side a little flat. So I'm going to select these two vertices and simply just press subdivide, extend it out a bit, and now it's a little more round. It's entirely up to preference on what you want your model to look like, but it's just just something I like to do. Now, I probably shouldn't be morphing it like this. This is why we have the top view, so I can actually go off of this and shape it to get it as accurate as possible to the ref. And here we have a nicely shaped head, or like where the jaw begins. Again, I don't really know what to call this little area. And then usually what I like to do, well, I'm gonna finish the rest. And when it comes to this bit, it's good to have these vertices aligned. Well, it's good to have pretty much the mouth vertices aligned so that when you close the mouth, it doesn't look too whack. I'm not exactly sure how to explain that, well, but I think maybe some of you get the point. I'm not sure. Okay, so now we have the bottom jaw, mouth opening outline. I, again, don't know what to call it, but to accurately see if this morphs well with the top, which is especially good for knowing if you don't have a top view. You can select all these vertices and then make sure this last vertice is highlighted white. You can either click this and then go to active element, or press period and then select active element. And then when you rotate, it'll rotate along that vertice. So you can see it almost closes perfectly fine. I'd say that's okay. Maybe a bit of adjustments. Then you can also use this to shape the bottom jaw along with the top of the head. And then it'll look perfectly fine. See, I would have never seen this, or well, probably would have. Just saves you a lot of the trouble. And yeah, that's looking good. So then you can just select all these again, select the last bit, rotate back down, and then to go back to normal, you can press period and then click median point. And then now we pretty much have a perfectly outlined mouth. And then usually after the mouth, I begin with the eye. This is what I would do for an eye. And let's say we get to this. Now, to connect these two, you could either just extrude one, select both of these, press M, and then at center, or you can simply just select these two and press F, which also works with doing faces. So like, let's say we have this face, and we can do this. We can select these two, press F, and it creates a face. So pressing F is more commonly done with faces, but it can work with edges too, I believe. And then I'd simply select all of these, press E, then press M and at center, and then would create this middle point. And this is pretty much our eye. And now I'm going to align this as perfectly as I can. I think the eye is about there, so that seems good. I'm gonna upscale it a bit. I think it's a little too small. Then sometimes I like to go into Shade Smooth, which you simply just right click. I just like the look of Shade Smooth sometimes, but you can also notice like bad normals, I think you'd call them. And to fix them, you just select every face and then press Shift N. It'll fix itself. Sometimes you need to do a little more than that, but that's commonly a mistake or issue with billboards, which also isn't just a very common mistake ever. And then I'd get onto the brow, and I'd simply just align this towards the top, and then I'd pull this over. I would extend this about there. Yeah, I think that's about as far as the ref makes it go. And now we're starting to shape the brow in. And then I would take it over the top, and then I'd go to the center. Move this up, and move this down. And now we kind of have a good little eye area. Then I would start to take the bottom and connect it to the mouth vertices. There is a better, like, if I want to get a perfect front view, I could use this. I normally don't, but this time I will, because, I mean, I could actually, well, it would definitely help with proportions. Oh, and to face forward, you can press 1, or of course, Y or negative Y. It really depends on where your model is facing. And of course, align that to the center. So now I can simply, the jaw, it's not really aligned with the front view. I'm not sure if that's, oh, no, that is my fault, actually. I just didn't see that before. So I'm just going to have to realign some of that. And then there we go. Pretty much all of it is aligned. It's almost perfect. It doesn't have to be too perfect, as long as it just works, you know? And then you can use this front view to better shape how the front of your model looks. So, like, maybe this has to go more like that. What also helps is just a basic understanding, or a good understanding of anatomy. You know, I've heard of a time where someone never modeled before, but they knew dino anatomy, and their first model was actually really great. So that could go a long way. So then I just begin to extend these faces, and actually, you know what? There are different ways to do it. I think this time I'll simply just extrude these upwards, move them in a bit to create that sort of lip feel. And then, of course, you want to make sure that this is aligned with the other faces you've created with the eye. You always want to make sure that vertices and faces are aligned as perfectly as you can get them, because edge flow is really good. Edge flow is what allows models to have better movement and animation. Usually when you're modeling, you don't want to model with triangles. In some places you can, but let's say I'm modeling the base of this neck, I don't want a triangle in the middle of it because then moving it would be a bit funky. So doing it with quads would provide this straight line. When I get to the neck, I'll show an actual example, but I just wanted to explain that. Now, sometimes when I do want to add a little bit more detail, I'd put a little more loop cuts than normal. And I don't remember if I actually gave what the control was for loop cuts. It's Control R. So then, like, to create this, what would I call it? Like a contour? I don't think that makes sense. Like a split here. And these ridges, like the slightest split, I just do this. It's also going to help with the flow at the top of the head, which of course is always good. I do apologize if this tutorial, it's a little funky. Maybe I'm explaining things weirdly. That's my bad because I didn't script this as I had planned to, but I honestly just wanted to get this out of the way because I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And again, it's been 2 years. I think people have waited long enough. See, now, here's an example on where triangles can work because, you know, obviously I'm not going to be moving this part of the head and not much mobility or range of mobility is going to be necessary there, so I can pretty much do whatever I want. Again, I'll show an example of good and bad topology for places such as the neck and other parts that would need to be moved, like the limbs, arms, legs, tail, the body segments. Here I'm starting to finish up the head. The head is always my most favorite part to do because it's I don't really know. I don't have a reason. I just think the head of a dinosaur is always the coolest part, especially on dinosaurs like ceratopsians, you know, Triceratops, Styracosaurus, and whatnot. They always have the coolest features. It's unfortunate that they're really hard to model. So here we have the head starting to take shape, and of course, me looking at it in shade smooth, I think it looks pretty good. Now it does look a bit funky because of what I did with the lips, but I think it's really whatever. I can just move that in a bit. And then of course, because if you want to put this into something like carnivores, normally you'd want to stay under 1,024 triangles, and I think it was pushed. There's a max limit of 2,048. And with the recent release of Modder's Engine Edition, it's basically unlimited. But the issue is that I don't think that's really something you still want to go for. You don't want to put too much into a model still. It's not like a finished feature. I think it's impossible to import them into carnivores because you can't put sounds on them. You can use the carnivores editor, C3 edit, or whatever it's called. But the thing is, it only supports models under 2,048 triangles. And there's also CMM, but you can't really apply sounds in there at all, I think, yet. So it's best to stay under 1024 or under 2048. And to save triangles, I'm pretty sure every vertex equals 4 triangles. Let's click this and then click statistics, which will show the triangles. By the way, I'm using Blender 3.6. because I think texturing is better on this version. It's proven to have worked better. I don't know why. So here we got, you know, we have all these unneeded vertices in the middle of the face. So what I can do is just select 2, center, and then this will decrease. And the thing is, you usually want to merge vertices in places that it won't make too much of a difference in what the previous product looked like and will maintain its shape. So even though I merge those two, it still works. You know, merging these doesn't do too much to the actual mesh shape and actually maintains it. Just, you know, with a less triangle count, which is really good. It's good for optimization in general for any project you want to do. To triangulate also, you can, you select the face and you press Ctrl T. And if you want to untriangulate it, you select those faces and press Alt J. Looks perfectly fine from the front. I think I'll start with the jaw now, which usually the jaw obviously is a lot easier than the top of the head. You can simply just do this and then that. Of course, again, it depends on what kind of model you're making. I tend to go for the low poly style, so this is just how I do it. And then I'd extrude this out, and then when I get to a bigger part like this, I think I just, of course, expand it. Just start extruding the face. Not really gonna need this many faces, I think, because I might just end up like merging some of the vertices, because again, unnecessary topology. Like, I'll merge these because they don't seem to be too necessary at the moment. I'll merge this as well. And I think I'm gonna make it so that this kind of dewlap shape is still here. So I'm going to extrude this vertice out to kind of align with this, and then I'll simply just connect those. It doesn't look too much like a dewlap, but if you add a loop cut and then I think you just move it up, it does look a little more like a dewlap. You actually get a sort of jaw shape, which I think is really cool. Oh, look at that. That's an issue, so I'll just select all that. Shift N. It's fixed. Oh, yeah. Oh, what is happening there? Merge that. That should be fixed. Yeah. So, I mean, of course, you don't have to if you don't want that much detail, or if you're not looking for that much detail, but I think I'm going to do it because it looks really cool. Usually when I get to the neck, that's when I start merging vertices the most, because I'll usually have, like, how many loop cuts? Like 3 loop cuts along here, and then of course just some at the edges. You'll see when I get to it. Okay, so the head is pretty much finished right now. The inside of the mouth I'll get to later, but other than that, this is kind of just it. Now, of course, if we want to continue having that cool jaw shape, or maybe even a slight head shape, we can just do this and then drag it inward. I would merge these two, and then I will go ahead and merge these outward, and then you'll notice the like head shape taken. Or the head ridge. I don't know what I'd call it. It's probably the correct term to use, I'm not sure. Now, I think I probably could just have it a little more out on the head. Yeah, that looks fine. Just make sure this is all good, and it is. So then I'd finish the neck, connect all of these, and here is where I merge. So now when I extend, I did say there would be 3 different loop cuts going down the neck, but when it comes to making a low poly model, to me, 3 loop cuts or simply just 2 going along the neck is actually kind of fine for me. But so here is where I'll present the example of bad topology. So let's say we want this whole segment to be a part of the neck you can move, and this is also a different neck segment. Something you do not want to do is have topology that looks like this, because then let's say, well, that could still work actually. How do I explain this? So let's say we're starting a different part of the neck, and for some reason I'm going like this, and then I'm just extruding outward to create the other part of the neck. Now, it's not the biggest deal, but I think in a higher poly model, you don't want this, because it's not just a clean cut through there. It's just not good. I wouldn't recommend ever having topology like that. It's just odd, unless you have like a lot of detail going into some sort of part of the model. I wouldn't recommend it, but I'll just merge these two to create that perfect line down the middle, and then I will continue the neck. And usually for the neck, I would have 3 parts, but I think I'll have 4. And then I will, of course, shape it to its correct width. Then I'll move these top ones in so that it's a little more round. I also like to get a good look at it when it's triangulated, just to see how it is. I actually am kind of surprised with how this model's come with. Damn, I can't talk. With how this model is coming out. Usually I'd say my models are okay. I mean, it is just the head and neck. It's really nothing, so maybe I'm speaking too soon. So I think I'll just shut up. And now for, I'd say, one of the trickiest parts when it comes to learning the model, making the limbs, specifically the arms. Now, doing this took me a lot of time. In my old tutorial, you literally see me stealing, what was it, raptor or Cerrato limbs for my Dilo, but thank goodness I've actually learned how to do stuff myself. And I'd usually start with the nail, where I would create the claw, or like the outline of it, give it a bit of shape, and then I would move this middle point to create kind of more points that go down the middle, and then I would connect these to form the nail. And here we have a perfect Torvo fingernail. And then I take the base of the nail, extrude it outwards, and then extrude it up to kind of replicate the shape of the rest of the finger. I think I'd probably move this out a little more. And yeah, that's seeming pretty good. So then you can now just grab this finger, Shift D to duplicate it, and then you can just size it. Oh, and to also size, you press S. Again, don't know if I explained that, but that's why I said it's a good thing to have basic, Blender knowledge, so that hopefully it makes your learning a little easier. Because I'm not really here to teach, Blender basics. I'm trying, but that's not really my main focus here. Now, this claw does look different. It's fatter. It has a bigger nail, probably. You can shape it to be that way. I'm not gonna, because I'm lazy. And then to make the fingers seem a bit more connected, I would press F in these spaces. And then I think I would drag these out so that, I can better morph the hand. Then I'd go to the edge select all of these edges, and then simply extrude to start forming the arm. Now, when it comes to making limbs, topology needs to be good. Unless you don't plan on animating or rigging it, the limbs have to have good topology, or else it just won't work out. So when it comes to limbs that might bend, and I think this applies to any kind of character you make, whether it's a animal or a human person or whatever, I think it's usually good to have the elbow bend, or wherever you're bending, kind of be like this, where you have one side, it's just I don't really know how to explain what this looks like, but I think you can get a pretty good understanding at what I mean here. Alright, so I just got back from dinner, and I think this would be a perfect time to also show that saving is a really good thing, because if I hadn't, I probably not, but it's always a good thing to save whatever you're doing before you go to do something else, or just occasionally save. Like, maybe your Blender is notorious for crashing. Personally, I haven't had any issues with mine, so I usually don't worry too much, but for this, I will, just for the sake of, the tutorial. But back to what I was doing, I'm just going to continue. Oh, and another thing is that if you want to select a whole edge loop, or, yeah, a whole loop, instead of selecting these individually, you can just hold Alt and press one of the segments, and then you'll just have the whole thing selected. Then I can just extrude that outward. So here I will just continue forming the arm, which is starting to look good. The final step for the arm, I will pull these out and kind of shape them a bit, extrude this up, and then that is pretty much our arm connected to the body, almost. I am going to extend this outward so I can get it as accurately as possible. Oh yeah, and also, of course, using the front view, which I almost completely forgot about. Obviously, I should use this for the arm width, and also just the general placement of the arms. That seems good. Let me delete this, actually. just so I can get a better start. Then I can go like this. I think I'll just merge these two. And then kind of for the armpit area, I would select these, extrude up, and then extrude back down. Align it with the bottom of the body, and then simply pull them in. And then I'll just align these to be a little better. It's not looking too bad. Yeah, I think that works fine. And then I'll simply just extrude all this. Boom. And here we have a pretty good arm, I'd say. I think it looks perfect. Then I will redo this bit. I'll just extrude upwards, align it, and then connect. I think this looks really nice. Now to get on with the rest of the body, I'll simply just extrude this face along here, maybe 2 or 3 times, and then I'll extrude these up so I can build the kind of spine area. And then the leg should be of course, the easier limb to do. So let me push this in, push this out, connect this, and then to kind of finish this bit here. Yes, this is what you do. Every time I model, sometimes I always forget what I do at certain parts, and then it kind of just comes back to me. Happens. Then I think I will just turn this into one big face. And here we have a pretty good body. And now I will get on to the leg, which usually I will start with the toenail. It pretty much works exactly the same as... Okay, so this is where I say turning off clipping is actually pretty good in case you do something like this. Instead of just getting rid of this and redoing, you just turn off clipping and then move it away, then turn it back on. But as I was saying, doing this is pretty much the exact same as doing the fingers. Of course, with feet, it's a little different, but kind of the same idea. Then I'd extrude this down, and that's a little misaligned, actually. So let me realign that. And to ensure that it's flat, I would extrude and then press G and then press Y and go along this axis so that it's straight along and not like up or down. Then I do it about 2 times before coming to that part of the foot. And then for the base, where am I looking right now? Okay, so let me put the toe like right here. For matching the toe angle, I don't think that's necessary. I don't see why it would be. Actually a little odd how this is aligned. Okay, that's better. I suppose I'll do it like this. Not that I really find it worth doing, but I'll just do it for the sake of following the ref. I don't know if I've said it already, but staying true to the ref, of course, isn't something you always have to do, but if you want to, you can. Simply do this, and then when I shrink, you'll see this. You'll see it gets, it gets smaller from like the middle of where all the geometry is, and then you'll try to align it. You want it to be, of course, as flat as how this is, or perfectly aligned. So before sizing down, I deselect this, select it again for this white thing, or for that vertice to be highlighted white. I'd press period, go back to active element, and then just scale. And then just like the jaw, it'll be scaled from where that is, and it'll maintain the bottom of it too. That's pretty good. And then I would just merge these two together. And now the same for this toe. Alright, that's looking pretty alright. And then just like the fingers, I would fill in these gaps to make them seem more connected. Then I would grab these vertices along the bottom, extrude outward to better match the foot. I'd center the 2 back ones, push these forward to the side to form a better foot shape. And here we pretty much have the base of our foot. Then I'd push that back a little. And then I would connect these two. Now here is where we will start extruding upwards to get the shape of the leg. Of course, I find doing the leg to be the easiest part, how do I say this? The easiest thing to do when it comes to making limbs. It's just never been too hard for me. as opposed to arms. Then here you kind of want to do this, and then merge these two because it will help for... Oh, that's not good. Okay, so this is why I don't like to work with the feet angled, because then I have to deal with stuff like that. Is first of all, let me fix this. And second, because it's angled, that means I'd have to model the leg angled, which isn't something I want to do, so I'm going to straighten it first. I'm going to put that back to median, and then we can redo all of this. Hopefully better though. And then when making the knee here, I want to select these two, center, so that, as I was about to say before I had to restart, when animating, you know, it'll move the way you want it to. It's the pros of having good topology. And then once I actually do finish this leg bit, I will rotate it so that I can align it better with the ref. You could either connect these faces or simply just merge. I think I'm going to connect here. I think it might be the better option. How is this? Okay. And now I think I will rotate the leg back to its original position. Where does the thigh go? It goes right, like about there. Yeah, perfect. It looks so good when aligned with the ref. Okay, so now that we have all of this aligned, I can better get this. I can get a better shape of the legs. But I think I had already done a pretty good job at the leg shape, so there's actually not much I have to change. Thank goodness. Oh, let me fix that. But this is looking pretty good. When it comes to this part, I think I just push this in a little bit because that's taking a bit too much space. Connect that. Actually, no, let's not connect that yet. Move this up, then I'd extrude up, then extrude down, connect this, move this a bit. Then I would do some weird stuff like this. And I believe that works. Usually when it comes to this middle part, it's kind of whatever. Usually what I do at the end always works, so I don't really complain too much. All I can really do is pray that it actually does what I want it to. And then once I feel like it is necessary, I will connect that, extrude the top of the thigh up, connect it to the center, merge these two because we don't need them. And there we have the legs connected to the body. Now, I think the topology around the leg is good. I'm going to triangulate this so it's a little better to see. I'm not liking the way that's looking. And... there's got to be a better way to do this. Wait, what is happening here? Oh, I see the issue. I had them connected real weird. But it looks better now. Also a tip, you don't want to have faces in your model because it can really mess up the UV editing when it comes to creating the textures. And now I can simply begin to select these and just extrude down the tail. And I can move these a bit, continue extruding. It can be as many segments as you want. I don't think it really matters how much you do. But because I model low poly stuff, I don't try to have too much. And when you do have too much, as you go down, try not to have too many vertices because you don't need too much on the tail. Like, I'd say this is pretty good for optimization. I'm pretty sure a lot of big games, especially when it, like dinosaur games like The Isle or Path of Titans, when they do their retopology, tails usually are optimized like this, where they are merged as they get to the end. And then I will simply align this. And now we have the tail done. Now there's only one last... Oops. Oh, that's not good. Now we have one last thing to do for the model. It's pretty much almost complete. The last thing we need to do is the mouth. Oh, and also something I always forget when I model. It's this little claw here on the side of the foot. You can model that if you want. I'll do it just so I can show how. Select this back face on this like heel or ankle area. Then simply just extrude outward. Size it down to match the size of the claw. Do it once more. And there you kind of have it. I'd say this is good enough. I don't usually do it just to save space, or not space, but to save triangles. Right now I have 1,302. That's really fine because I'm not going to put it in carnivores most likely. But of course, if you just want to do that, that's how you do it. And now for the actual final bit is the mouth area. So because this is a lipped animal, I'm going to be doing the teeth on the inside. To get this area filled in, I would select these two, press E to extrude, confirm it, and then press M to put them at the center. Then I'd align it, and then I would just extrude along here to kind of get the shape of that. I don't really know what words to use. Then I'd simply connect them. And of course, to make this look better, just bring these out, and that'll be that little part done. Now let's get on to the actual inside of the mouth. I'd select all of these outer ones, and then E to extrude, and then just bring them into the center, move them down, and then fill this little part in. And then because it's the mouth, it's something pretty simple. You don't need a lot of triangles for it depending on what you're doing. So I like to just merge the center ones. They don't do too much to the topology. They maintain the shape, which is of course good. And then of course I will do the exact same to the top of the mouth. Once again, I do apologize if I explain some things kind of poorly. There's definitely someone out there that could explain it better than I can. I'm just trying my best. And now that we have kind of those insides filled out, we can press K to get the knife tool. Then I will simply just cut out where the teeth are going to be extruded from. So I'll pretty much just do that. Select those vertices, extrude, and then I will align this with the teeth. Now, this is what a billboard is. Or that's at least what I call it. That's what people call it in the carnivores community, I guess. But pretty much just flat faces that, you know, some small details like spines or teeth, frills, or anything that will go on. You'll texture the actual thing onto these flat surfaces, and the black image behind them will just become transparent after you do a few things. I'm not entirely sure how to do it. I'll show examples on the screen. And then now I'll do the same for this, but a little closer to the edge, because the teeth on the top of the head are more like outward, I think, if that makes sense, compared to the teeth on the bottom jaw. Shape it a bit. I am missing a bit there, but I am not going to worry about that. Shift N. Now, I think this is where I'd say you kind of have to do it yourself. To see if normals are actually facing the right way, you can click this and then go to face orientation. Now for me, well, it's facing the right way, but it just doesn't, well, look that great. So I guess I'll just leave it alone. It does kind of bother me though. But now we have our lipped effect. And I think if we select all of this, just select our whole jaw here, and then select this as our last one, active element, we can close it and see what the final result is like. And I'd say that's actually really good. The teeth do show at the bottom there. You can make minor adjustments so that they don't show. It's simply just because I have a low poly jaw that they're showing, but it works pretty good. And then for the last part of the mouth, I will simply drag this in to create kind of a throat. I'll extrude it about 3 times into the mouth, move it a bit, and then I will connect the inside of the mouth to these. But I mean, yeah, this is starting to look pretty good on the inside. And then I can simply just go like this, I believe. Let's merge these two. Connect those faces. shade it back to flat. And now we have a finished Torvosaurus. In my opinion, I think I actually did a really good job on this model. I don't really know how, because I don't think I usually ever do. Well, I enjoy the way my models look, but this is just phenomenal in my opinion. I don't think I've ever done this good. Could be because of the ref. Always find a good ref. But this is pretty much the finished model, and I look at it in shade smooth. I think it looks amazing. And now for the final part, which I usually do when I put it into carnivores. I don't think you have to do it. You can if you want. But to give it that old game look, I think you'd call it, you simply select all the faces by pressing A in edit mode and then Control T. And now you have all the faces triangulated. And that'll be it. That's the whole tutorial. Let me know if I should do any others, like maybe I could rig this thing and animate it for a tutorial. I would love to do that, so I think I will, but probably not for quite a bit, as even doing this video took me a while to get out. But yeah, I'll be looking forward to feedback. That'll be all.